meeting. And every week we have this meeting where we get to do breakout face-to-faces and have great talks and meet each other. We suspend exclusivity, and I love this meeting because it is filled with so many people from throughout the tri-state region and throughout the rest of the country who come here and see the value in this. We have a lot of leaders here, and honestly, the people that consistently come here, these are the movers and shakers, and these are the people you really want to be doing face-to-faces with. So I hope you understand that when you're in this room, you're in the room with the people who are making it happen. And then from time to time, we will have special presentations, and today is one of those days. And we're having more and more of these. And these are people who are coming in to speak, to teach us something from their expertise. Okay, they're not here to pitch their business. They're here to teach us, to add value to what we're doing. So I want to introduce today's speaker. And if you've never met Nicole, Nicole Dupuis is a productivity coach, but she goes really beyond productivity coach. She's worked in the corporate world. She has recently left the corporate world where she was training, and she has ventured out on her own. So she has been unleashed. And Nicole is a wonderful vice president of the Upper Rockland chapter, where she heads up the training there, teaches us so many good points. And, she practices this in her own life. If you haven't followed her on Instagram, you want to go to Instagram, even if you don't have the app on your phone, download it just so you can see Nicole's feed, find clarity here. She's an absolute riot while teaching you good stuff. So I couldn't think of a better person to listen to today than my friend and great Master Networks member and leader, Nicole Dupuis. Go ahead, Nicole.
Wow, thank you. Do I have the ability to share my screen?
Yes, you do.
Awesome. Well, thank you. It just went away. Hold on. Can you do it again? Thanks. Okay, perfect. I feel like I don't even need to present, like that was enough. I can just drop the mic. Thanks. Thanks, Rob. So excited to present today on owning your time. And ironically, I practice this so many times to try to keep it on time. So I'm going to work really hard to stick to the 8 minutes. So for those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Nicole. I'm a certified productivity coach. I am the vice president of the Upper Rockland chapter. We meet Friday mornings at 9. Please come visit. It's a great way to kick off your weekend.
Nicole, you have 15 minutes, Nicole, 15.
I have 15 minutes. Oh, good. Okay. I can. Okay. So I like long walks on the beach. No. Oh, that's good. So today we're going to talk about owning your time. And I love this topic because it's very hard to kind of get in front of your time and feel like you have the control. So we're going to kind of break this down a bit. I do have a little surprise at the end, so I'll have a chance to talk about that. So awesome. So here we go. So I want to dive in first to ownership on its own before I dive into owning your time. So I'm going to talk about it really simply in terms of owning just an object. So I'm going to use pumpkin because if anyone knows me or follows me on Instagram, it's fall, it's October, and I'm obsessed with pumpkins. So if I own a pumpkin, what does that mean? So when looking up and researching ownership and the concept of owning something, 3 core themes came up: exchange, possession, and decision. So breaking these down, and again, using the example of a pumpkin. So I own a pumpkin. There was an exchange that happened. So I probably gave money to purchase the pumpkin. So I gave something to get something. The second piece is possession. And I do not mean the scary demon type that we see in horror movies that come up right now. I mean, basically, it's in my possession. So I have purchased the pumpkin and now it's probably in my home. If someone were to ask, whose pumpkin is that? They would be like, that's Nicole's. It's recognized that I now own this. And the last concept is decision. So because I own this pumpkin, I get to decide what happens to it. I can carve it. I can sell it to someone else. I can put it on the front stoop. I can bake it. I get to make the decision about what to do with it because I own it. So if we dive into owning your time and taking those 3 kind of core components, these are kind of some things to think about and ask yourself when kind of questioning, do I really have ownership of my time? So the first piece is exchange, again, giving something to get something. So you're giving your time all day long to your schedule, to meetings, to whatever hobbies you have. What are you getting in return? And is it a worthy exchange? So a good example is, let's say you run 3 mornings a week, you run 2 to 3 miles. Is that worthwhile because you're increasing your heart health, you're getting stronger? Maybe you have a 10K coming up and you're training for it. That's a good exchange. Maybe you have a bunch of meetings that seem to be a waste of your time. It's not a good exchange. So just kind of thinking about what that exchange of your time is. Possession. We all have a schedule, whether we really take ownership of it or not. We all have kind of when we get up in the morning, when we go to sleep, when we close and end our professional day, when we take breaks. So do you have possession of that schedule, and do you protect it? Or are you just kind of letting anyone kind of throw some appointments on there and, oh yeah, I can move these things around, no problem? Or are you protecting it? And then decision, are you making the final choice on what you do with your time? Or is that power being kind of given away to other people? Stuff just kind of shows up and you move forward with it. Sure, it's fine. I don't need to make the final decision. I'll go with the flow. So jumping into kind of some key things to talk about that can make you feel a little bit more in control and ownership of your time is first setting the mood. So I could do a whole presentation just on this slide. So I'm breaking it down to very simplified here, but what are you doing first thing in the morning, and do you even know? I can't emphasize enough the importance of what you let in to your morning and how that impacts the rest of your day. So I'm talking emails, text messages, voicemails, social media, phone calls, news, what we read, what we're absorbing from the outside world has such an impact on our day and our ability to feel in control and own our day. So one example, there was a study done on the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing, that people who watched 6 or more hours of the coverage of the bombing had similar or worse post-traumatic symptoms than those who actually witnessed firsthand and were at the bombing itself. So a lot of you are probably not watching 6 hours of news in the morning, but just goes to show that letting in those outside impacts really affects us mentally, emotionally, physically. So you want to make sure what you're letting in, you're making that decision, you're taking that powder, you're owning your time and saying, I want positive vibes, I want energy, I want something that boosts me. I want to limit outside kind of perspectives and influence, so that I first decide I'm going to have a great productive day today. Okay, now kind of bring it on. Now I can watch the news. Now I can look on social media. Now I can answer that email because I've taken ownership first. So take control. Know when you do your best work. And it's different for everyone. I really do emphasize that. So some of us are morning people. Some of us are middle of the day people, afternoons. Some people work really well in the evenings. But knowing when your best time is and adjusting to that. So let's say from like 9 to 11 a.m., that's when you do your best work. You're like just on during that time. Making sure you adjust what you can for the key things that you need that brain function, you need that deep flow time to do. So maybe really big client meetings, maybe you have a newsletter that you like deep dive, write and, kind of creative write on. You want to do that at that time. Maybe you want some brainstorming time. Maybe you have meetings that are more just check-ins. Maybe move those out of that key time. Don't focus on what you can't change. So maybe you have some meetings during that 9 to 11 block twice a week that are just check-ins. Your boss set it up. You can't move it. You have to have those meetings. You have to go to those meetings. How can you adapt the rest of your time to be more aligned with that deep flow work? So when you do your best work, again, 9 to 11 a.m., you do your best work. What do you do to set up that best work? Maybe you have a special type of coffee. Maybe you walk your dog, maybe you do 20 minutes of yoga, but recognizing what sets up that good time. And then can you adapt? Okay, I have a meeting during that time, this morning, but I really want to have a deep kind of time to work later in the afternoon. Walk your dog later in the afternoon again. Have a decaf version of your coffee drink. Do a little bit of workout before the afternoon rather than in the morning. Don't focus on what you can change. Focus on what you can change and adapt accordingly. So again, you feel like you're making that final decision with your time. And the last piece is urgency. And I'm mostly talking about false sense of urgency. And there are pros and cons to this. So we'll talk about the pros first. If you have a project, something you need to prepare, marketing material you're working on, it's just kind of looming, like weeks and weeks going by. I got to do that. I got to do that. I got to do that. But it's not actually being done. Creating a false sense of urgency can really work in your favor. If you read the book, Eat That Frog, which was our book club choice last month, it talks about creating these like false deadlines for ourselves and help us. We're almost kidding ourselves. Yes, we have to get it done by the end of this month. I have to do that bit of this project by the end of this week. It kind of gets us going into the mode of, all right, I really need to meet this deadline. So that's when it really works. False sense of urgencies work against us when we kind of create them out of nowhere. There's no foundation to it. So I put this quote up there because this was a quote from a client, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. And, we start off the meeting, like, how's it going? What's up? And he's like, I'm taking time off this week and I feel guilty, like first thing out of his mouth. And he basically told me that he had this company was launching something. He wanted to talk to each of his team members about this new launch. And he was really concerned, I want to meet with all of them. How do I structure that meeting? How do I get everyone's meeting in before I leave for vacation? I'm so stressed. I'm so overwhelmed. I feel bad about taking this time off. It's like too much. And, being a coach, I ask a lot of questions. First question was, do you need to have these meetings before you leave for vacation? Just not knowing the timeline. Was it in fact urgent? This kind of had to get out, ASAP. And he just shrugged and like, no. And he basically realized no one is saying he has to have these meetings. He has to talk about this launch before he leaves on vacation. That came from somewhere else. And he was setting that sense of urgency on himself, which was purely adding stress and overwhelm and anxiety to his schedule. So once he realized that, it was like, okay, great. I have my vacation time to kind of keep brainstorming what I want those conversations to look like, have a little bit more time. I can let my team know I'm going to be setting up these meetings when I'm back, give them the heads up. It was just a lot more ease to that. And again, that pressure gone, and he felt much more, okay, I can get in front of these meetings rather than, okay, I have to set up these meetings and I don't know how I'm going to do it. And, my schedule's all over the place. So try to make false sense of urgencies work for you and check in with yourself if you notice that you're creating one that's actually working against you, not for you. So that's the last piece that I want to talk about this morning. But like I said, I do have a surprise. So I said I was obsessed with pumpkins. You may have noticed there were pumpkins in the presentation. So get ready. The first person to put the accurate number of pumpkins in this presentation in the chat, I will give you a free 1-hour coaching session. So you had to be paying attention, or you can make a guess, but go for it. And I'll give you a hint. That's one. And I'm going to open the chat. I think it was Miguel with 4.